Early in our relationship, my wife, then my girlfriend, and I faced challenges with intimacy. I had a strong drive, while hers was almost non-existent. We openly discussed it, but the situation remained unchanged. While she was on a vacation with a friend, I purchased an adult accessory to address my needs, thinking it was a way to handle the issue without violating her trust. However, when she returned and found it, she shamed me for it. I tried to explain my reasoning, but her reaction was filled with disgust, and she insisted I get rid of it. Looking for advice, I turned to a married friend, who suggested that I go on a trip with the guys to blow off some steam. Foolishly, I followed his advice, and during that trip, I made the worst mistake of my life. I was unfaithful. For months later, I proposed to her, and she said yes. However, 2 months after our engagement, she discovered evidence of my mistake. A deleted video on my phone, and learned the truth. She was devastated, but after days of anger and tears, she chose to work through it. She gave me clear conditions: cut ties with the friends involved in the trip and attend therapy. Determined to prove my love and commitment, I agreed. Over time, we managed to rebuild our relationship. Trust slowly returned, intimacy improved, and we started planning our future together. Children, a home, everything. Our wedding became a celebration of the love and strength we had developed through our struggles. But just a month after the wedding, her behavior began to change. She started spending late nights with a younger coworker, going out to clubs, and coming home at 4 a.m. One night, after she stayed out for the second night in a row, I found her laptop hidden in a closet. Curious and suspicious, I opened it and discovered messages with 2 men. One man she admitted to kissing in a car after a night out. The other she had been exchanging flirtatious messages with, sending photos, and meeting under the pretense of spending time with a friend. They had even discussed meeting in his hotel room. Angry and hurt, I called her and demanded she come home. When I confronted her with the messages, she initially denied everything but eventually justified her actions by bringing up my mistake from 2 years earlier. I reminded her that I had taken full responsibility for my actions, sought therapy, and worked hard to rebuild our relationship. She eventually apologized and promised it wouldn't happen again. We agreed to begin marriage counseling. The holidays passed, but despite my repeated attempts to schedule counseling, she showed no interest. Then, she announced she wanted to take a trip with her friends, saying she needed time to herself. Both her brother and I were against it, but she insisted and went anyway. During her trip, her behavior became suspicious again. Hidden Instagram stories, flirtatious messages with a man, and early morning phone calls. When she returned, I confronted her again. After some hesitation, she admitted to these actions, but then suggested we separate so she could figure things out. The next day, she told me she wanted a divorce. When I asked if she had met someone on her trip, she denied it. However, I later found messages exchanged with a man she had met during the trip. She admitted they had discussed our marriage and that he had suggested she consider divorce. I was stunned. She refused counseling but was willing to take advice from someone she had just met. Now, she's suggesting we both start dating other people, claiming there's no way to repair our relationship since we've both made mistakes. Desperate, I've pleaded with her to reconsider and work on our marriage, even proposing therapy again. But she's already started using dating apps and seems determined to move on. When I asked why she went through with the wedding if she had doubts, she said she was too caught up in the planning and only realized her feelings during the vacation. When I asked what marriage meant to her, she said, "It's just about having kids." That was the moment I realized I no longer recognized the woman I had fallen in love with. For me, marriage was about building a family and supporting each other. But now I feel completely lost. She insists that she still loves me and wants us to remain best friends, but claims we're just not right for each other. I'm left wondering why she continued with the wedding if she felt this way. Now, I feel utterly shattered. After all the effort, love, and attempts to save our relationship, I feel betrayed and confused. My mental health is deteriorating as I try to process everything that's happened. I have no idea how to move forward. Sitting alone in our shared home, surrounded by memories of what once was, I couldn't stop replaying the events of the last few months in my head. Every decision, every argument, every failed attempt to salvage our marriage seemed to haunt me. I was stuck in a loop of self-blame, confusion, and heartbreak. After everything we'd been through, it was hard to comprehend how we got here. I'd made mistakes, serious ones, and owned up to them, spending years trying to rebuild what I had broken. But now, after her betrayal and complete detachment from our marriage, I couldn't help but feel like all that effort was for nothing. In the days following her announcement of wanting a divorce, I tried to hold on to any shred of hope that things could change. I begged her to talk to me, to revisit the idea of therapy, or even to take time apart without making any rash decisions. But she had already mentally checked out. She spent more and more time on her phone, engaging with strangers on dating apps, while I sat in silence, trying to piece together what went wrong. Feeling like I was losing control of my emotions and my sanity, I decided to reach out to a therapist, alone this time. If she wasn't willing to attend counseling with me, I needed to find a way to navigate my own emotions and figure out how to move forward. In my first session, I poured out everything. My mistakes, her actions, the trust we tried to rebuild, and how it all came crashing down. The therapist listened patiently, offering insights I hadn't considered before. "It sounds like you've been carrying the weight of this relationship on your shoulders for a long time," she said gently. "You've been trying to repair things, but a marriage requires effort from both partners. If she's unwilling to engage, you're fighting a battle on your own." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I had spent so much time trying to fix things that I hadn't stopped to consider whether she wanted to fix them at all. I was so desperate to save our marriage that I ignored the signs of her disengagement. The therapist encouraged me to focus on myself for a while, to reflect on what I wanted out of life and whether this relationship was truly serving me anymore. It was a painful realization, but a necessary one. Back at home, things continued to deteriorate. We were living as strangers under the same roof. She started spending nights away, claiming she was staying with friends, though I suspected otherwise. The woman I once knew, kind, compassionate, and committed, was gone, replaced by someone cold and distant. One evening, I mustered the courage to ask her directly, "Why are you doing this? Why are you pushing me away?" Her response was blunt. "I just don't feel the same anymore. I've changed, and I don't think we're compatible. I want a different life." Her words were like a dagger to the heart. I had always envisioned us growing old together, building a family, and supporting each other through life's challenges. But now, she was telling me that dream was no longer hers. As much as it hurt, I knew I couldn't force someone to stay in a marriage they no longer wanted. It was time to accept the reality of the situation and begin the painful process of letting go. I started making practical arrangements, contacting a lawyer, discussing the division of assets, and looking into moving out of the house. Each step felt like a blow to my already fragile emotional state, but it was necessary. In the midst of this, I leaned heavily on my support system. Friends and family rallied around me, offering comfort and advice. Her brother, who had also opposed her recent decisions, became an unexpected ally. He confided in me that he didn't recognize her anymore either, and that her behavior was out of character. "It's like she's running from something," he said one evening. "I don't know what's going on in her head, but this isn't who she used to be." His words gave me some solace, though they didn't change the outcome. As the weeks turned into months, I began to focus on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into work, hobbies, and self-improvement. I picked up activities I had long neglected: reading, running, and even learning to cook. These small steps gave me a sense of purpose and control in a time when everything else felt uncertain. Therapy continued to be a lifeline. With each session, I unpacked the pain, guilt, and resentment I carried. I learned to forgive myself for my past mistakes and to recognize that I deserved a partner who was equally invested in the relationship. Through this journey, I realized how much I had lost myself in the process of trying to save the marriage. I had prioritized her happiness and approval over my own well-being, and it was time to change that. Eventually, the divorce was finalized. It was a bittersweet moment, relief mixed with sadness. As I signed the papers, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, but the grief of losing the future we had planned lingered. In the weeks that followed, I focused on creating a new routine and setting goals for the future. I started to see glimmers of hope, a sense that life could be fulfilling again, even without her by my side. She reached out occasionally, sending mixed signals about wanting to remain friends. But I realized that staying in contact would only prolong the healing process. I respectfully but firmly told her that I needed space to move on. Looking back, the experience taught me valuable lessons about love, trust, and self-worth. I learned that relationships are a partnership, and both people need to be equally committed to making it work. I also learned the importance of setting boundaries and prioritizing my own mental and emotional health. Though the pain of the breakup still lingers, I'm beginning to see it as an opportunity for growth. I'm learning to embrace the uncertainty of the future and to trust that better days are ahead. For now, I'm focusing on rebuilding myself, piece by piece, and finding happiness within